What is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I'm JJ Wang. He's the bearded one, DJ Dub. With our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
What is up, JJ Wang? How you?
Happening. Feeling good today. Nice early morning here on Saturday.
It sounds like we're both a little slow up on the uptake as we record over our weekend for our Wednesday morning. Hopefully, this is Wednesday morning, 5 o'clock. You got up early to listen to us for the premiere of the Fantasy Courier each week. So mark your calendars. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're ready to listen to us on your drive to work. Or if you just want to wake up and have us be your alarm Wednesday morning, that's a great idea.
Great idea. I like it. I might do it myself.
So yeah, so I think we got super confident. We felt good about last week's show, which is why we're starting so slow today. But we have some awesome things to talk about this week. We're gonna go with the three segments. We got the versus segment. JJ Wang, you want to start us off with our versus here?
Yeah. So we did Dynasty versus Redraft last week. We picked, of course, Dynasty, and this year's kind of in that same mold, or this week's kind of in that same mold. We got the one quarterback versus two quarterback, super flex, however you want to play it. Like I prefer the two quarterback super flex type. Once I found out about it, the first 10 years of fantasy, I was in that one quarterback league, and you're always in the back of your mind, like this just doesn't make the quarterback important enough because there's like 17 quarterbacks still on the waiver wire, and then you're like, it's got to be a different way. What do you think? I mean, that's how I feel about it.
But as you're
Uh,
talking, my thoughts went even deeper. So we all started with the one quarterback league, and there's a different strategy to the one quarterback league. As you're doing it, you've got to devalue the quarterback, but you also still you have to decide if you want to stream or if you want that elite option. Do I want to rock and roll with a Pat Mahomes, or do I want to say, hey, who's playing the Lions this week? Who's playing the Texans this week? And both are valid options depending upon roster construction. The dynasty draft that I talked about last week is a one quarterback draft, and I actually voted to keep it a one quarterback league because I like to diversify my leagues. We talked about that prior to recording, how we don't want the same thing 8 times. I'm doing 8 leagues. I don't want to do the same thing every single time. So it helped with the strategy of thinking of it where one guy did draft Trevor Lawrence at number 4. Well, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be great in a rookie draft in a single quarterback. I'll take Justin Fields with my 2.6 every single time because it's late and he's just a stash.
yeah,
And then
absolutely. I mean, when you're talking about the one quarterback versus the two quarterback, I mean, it's just all about importance. I mean, you want to feel that actually the most important person on the field is the quarterback. So that's kind of how you want to relate it to fantasy. It makes it so much more fun that way. And then once I found the two quarterback, I mean that's what I like to stick to, like in my newer leagues. But like you said, I like to diversify with the one quarterback leagues because it's like you said, different strategy. I don't want to do the same thing over and over and over. Makes your fantasy life a little more fun. Gives you a few more options. But if I was to start one today, definitely going to be the two quarterback because I mean it's just I like to draft that quarterback first. I don't like to wait until round 8 or 9 to finally draft my quarterback. That's how I see things.
and two quarterbacks have went to a different strategy as well. There is the two quarterback league as well as the super
Yeah,
flex league where you in two quarterbacks you have to start a quarterback in that slot, which means you need to draft quarterbacks even heavier than in a super flex where if I only have two quarterbacks or someone goes down, I can start a running back, wide receiver, tight end in that super flex spot, which leads to different strategies when creating that team. I had a team where my quarterbacks were pummeled. I was down to only starting one quarterback in a super flex league, and I had to start some putzes in my super flex slot, which was very frustrating. And super flex also, you got to be careful you're not one of those rookies who doesn't draft 3, if not 4 quarterbacks. Because in the NFL, there's 32 teams. And if you're in a 12-person league, the math, which apparently I don't know how to do, as last week's podcast was pointed out, 12 times 3 equals 36, not 39. So there's not enough players for everybody to have 3 quarterbacks on their team. So you got to be aggressive and make sure you get those quarterbacks early. I believe I was looking at our most recent league. I think you have 4
Yeah,
quarterbacks.
I usually draft a lot of quarterbacks. I don't know. So how do you feel about this? So when you go into a draft, are you looking to draft 4 quarterbacks, or are you trying to just stick to your 2 in a possible and to avoid that extra roster spot, or using that extra quarterback for trade bait?
If it is a super flex or 2 quarterback, I will prioritize getting 3 quarterbacks. If I get 4 quarterbacks, I know that I am now playing with house money. I have the trump card that can sway me into getting that second tier or filling a roster spot. Last year I did that with our auction draft, but I messed up in how I approached getting rid of those quarterbacks. I got rid of them too soon and I didn't get the value I should have got. So if you do, never draft to trade, but knowing in a that if you have 4 quarterbacks, one of those you will be able to use later, and you're better off waiting until that quarter. Know that, just watch your team. You like on my team, I have Lamar Jackson. I know he's not going to be trade fodder, barring somebody giving me the ranch, but I do have Carson Wentz. Right now, his trade value is okay. But if Carson Wentz comes back as with the Colts and he just goes ballistic, his trade value is going to go through the roof on a super flex and 2 quarterback league that I could swap him out for a lower tier quarterback and a decent wide receiver, running back, tight end, so forth. So it's never draft for trading, but have that in the back of your mind. And in a super flex 2 quarterback league, depending on how big your bench is, hoard those quarterbacks because people need them and people
Uh,
will come for them.
yeah, eventually they're going to everybody's going to need that quarterback. Injuries happen all the time. So before we jump out of this segment, I was running through my thoughts were running through my head. How would you feel about a 2 quarterback league with a super flex position? So you're able to start 3 quarterbacks. So would you ever consider something like that?
Wow. You're talking crazy, mind numbing multiverse Loki crap here.
I mean,
So it's,
I mean, there's like I said, there's always that next step to that league you want to try. I mean, doing the same things over and over, and you always want to try something different. It was just something that I was thinking about. That would just make the quarterback just. I mean, the
you
first
just,
18 picks would be a quarterback.
we have an auction draft coming up in a couple of weeks, and I'm trying to tweak stuff every year. I
Hey
was
man,
considering doing 2 tight ends, but I might have to ponder between those 2 as how I'm going to change it. Do we do 2 quarterbacks and a super flex?
I think that
That's
would be.
just bonkers.
I think that would be fantastic to try. Like I said, it just popped in my head when we started doing this 1 quarterback versus 2 quarterback. What about 3 quarterbacks? I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Well, the auction value of a Pat Mahomes is like 80. Like
Through
it
the
just went through the
roof.
roof.
Through the roof. I mean,
That,
you're gonna have what, $50 to spend on everybody else by the time you were to draft your 3 quarterbacks.
yeah, yeah, wow. You just blew my mind. I've got to note that while you lead us into the next segment.
All right, we'll do. So this week, keeping with our old guy theme, I like to say
Old
veteran.
guys. Old
DJ
guys.
Dove likes to say old guys. We're going to go to the running backs. Now, the running back old guy is kind of different than the wide receiver old guy. Wide receiver old guy is what, 29, 30, 31. And for some reason, the old running back is what, 25, 26, 27. That's when they start to, I guess, descend as far as value goes. I think we were able to find a couple here that maintain some decent value. So I'll let you start out first. Who's the first one you got?
Well, I'm gonna give you a little history lesson as we get
Oh,
started here. You were talking about the running back position, and it's really a modern day thing looking at careers of running backs. I threw out we were doing some research here, and I'm looking at one of the classic running backs, Marcus Allen. He played till age 37. Now, his best year was age 25. So we're not talking about him being a stellar. He was just a consistent guy throughout his career. He would have been a PPR machine for us. We neither of us were playing fantasy this time. We were children and in high school. We graduated his last year in the pros. But Marcus Allen played until he was age 37. And throughout his career, he still averaged in his high 30s, 35, 36, 37, he still averaged 4.3, 4, and 4.1 yards per carry as an old dude. And that was on 200 in his last year, 124 carries. But over 200 carries as a 35-year-old running back. When we hear a 35-year-old running back today, we just imagine some old dude who is sitting there coaching from the backfield. Go on to one of a guy you right before you became a Cowboys fan, Tony Dorsett. Tony Dorsett was a great running back. When he was 31, 31 sounds like ancient today. If we have a 31 running back, we think he's jumping on one leg and rolling down the football field in a wheelchair or something. Tony Dorsett said, I'm going to have 305 carries, 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns, 46 catches, 449 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. He played 3 more years after that, amassing another 2,000 yards on about 575 or so carries over that time. But that's another time. Or here's your boy. Do you want to? You were pulling these stats out of your head. This was amazing, Mr. Emmitt Smith.
Yeah. So for all of you that don't know, Emmitt Smith is my guy. My favorite player in the history of the NFL, and to be quite honest, I think he's the best running back to ever step on the field. People say, he had this great offensive line. Yeah, blah blah blah. We all know that. But you want to talk about a true workhorse quarterback. I mean, this was the guy with the all-time rushing leader at 4,400 carries, 17,000 yards, 18,000 yards, 164 touchdowns. He could catch the ball. I mean, he had uh, 59 catches, 57, 50, 62. But that was back then. We don't have that anymore. Like this is a new age, and the running back is definitely a different animal.
And we did a little scouting here prior to this, and we were discussing as we get into one of these players, we're missing one of other than Emmett, one of the most consistent guys that went into his 30s. But looking at rushing attempts, we think of plateaus and when does a running back fall off, and that's going to be the key to the first guy we talk about. And I pulled up a list of the top rushing attempt leaders. You mentioned the first one, which was Emmitt Smith. So the top five rushing attempt leaders are in the history are 4,409 for Emmitt Smith. And then a mystery guy at number two, Frank Gore at number three with 3,700, Curtis Martin at 3,500, Jerome Bettis at almost 3,500. And then is Adrian Peterson, who right now doesn't have a team. But to scroll down to somebody who is actively on a team in the NFL playing, you have to go all the way down to number 71. And that is Mark Ingram, who isn't really playing that much because he's on the Texans. And we said Emmitt Smith had 4,400 rushing attempts. Mark Ingram in his career, 1,595 rushing attempts. Half of that, and that's today's NFL. And not even to get to the next guy who is on a team, you got to go to 98, which is Zeke, who, if he played as long as them, could catch the numbers, but he's not going to because of the modern day NFL. He has 1,413. And to scroll down even past Zeke, you got to go down. The next person is Melvin Gordon at 128. You go down to, and that's ridiculous thinking about the changing of the time. So two modern day Iron Men who may or may not have a team this year, but we're playing as of last year. I know Frank Gore wanted to play until his kid finished up with him. He played one of his best seasons came in age 33 when he had 1,000 yards with the Colts on 263 carries, 38 receptions. He was an Iron Man. He's played till he's age 37. Will he play this year? Probably. Last year he still had 653 yards as a Jet, which is pretty impressive considering he was running behind linemen as big as us or as good as us at football. And then one of the greatest running backs I saw play, whose career got derailed by just knuckleheadedness, sort of in a way. Adrian Peterson, who just watching him play, he was to me the closest equivalent to the way Jim Brown played with the power and just being bigger, stronger, faster than everyone. In Washington at age 33, he had 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 20 receptions, and another touchdown. Last year in Detroit, he just screwed all the DeAndre Swift owners by getting 604 yards, 7 touchdowns. So he played till age 35. Will he have a team this year? More than likely, he will have a team this year. So let's get into modern day. In the NFL this year, we looked it up. There are, according to who is this full-time fantasy where I found this stat was there are 11 running backs in the NFL over the age of 30. Most of them you've not heard of. Nick Bellore, who in the world is he? Nick Bellore, Rex Burkhead, we know him. Gore, who doesn't have a team. Carlos Hyde, who is like the third string running back. Like all these say RB3. David Johnson is the only RB1. You know, your boy David Johnson and Raheem Mostert's 29, so he's almost there. But David Johnson, the only RB1 over the age of 30 these days. So the guys we have aren't 30. We're going to start with a 26-year-old, a monster. A monster, not even a human being. This dude is built. I mentioned Jim Brown. This dude is built like Jim Brown, 6'3", 247. That sounds like a tractor trailer. This is Derrick Henry, last year's rushing leader, 378 carries, 2,027 yards, and 17 touchdowns. I mean, the year before he only had 303 carries, 1,540 yards, and 16 touchdowns. If this dude caught the ball, he would make Christian McCaffrey look like chopped liver. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, if he would just, I don't understand because I believe he can catch the ball. I mean, I don't understand how you just can't put Derrick Henry just in the flat on a wide open screen, stick him out there in front of a cornerback and just let him truck the ball down the field. I just don't get it. I would never take the guy off the field ever. I would give it to him every chance I got. But like I said, with Julio coming in, his chances might dwindle a little bit. So he might get 300 carries going back to that, but he, like I said, he has lost his coach that has given him the 700 carries the last 2 years. He's gone to Atlanta, which we'll talk about here shortly. But I'm pretty sure that 378 is probably his peak. Probably going to start coming back down now. Like I said, like he's not normal. That's from what it looks like. So he might be that guy that can take the 300 workload for the next 3 years and continue it. I mean, it's possible. I mean, he's a big, big dude.
Well, while reading about him, I always hear when you hear the running back and talking about fantasy, you're talking about the NFL, they're like that 300 carry mark. That's a threshold. If they get it too much, they're done. What happens after the 300 carry mark? And I was looking up one of the greatest running backs that I just take for granted because I was so young when he was playing and I wasn't alive for part of it anyway. Walter Payton, the late great Walter Payton, who is not a beast of a man. He is 5'10", 200 pounds. And the dude rushed for 300 carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times in his career. Derrick Henry's done it twice. Derrick Henry's built like a truck. He could eat Walter Payton for dinner, but Walter Payton did it all this time, and it could be the hits that Henry's gonna take that might make him different than Payton because Payton was more of a fidgety kind of player, but there's a realm of possibility. And it also just doing this episode brought back my appreciation for how good Sweetness was. Just looking at that, like he was the number 2 rushing attempts leader with 38 in his career for 1,600 yards and 110 touchdowns on that awesome Bears team. But just the appreciation for how good he really was, and that
Could
makes
Derrick
me.
Henry be that good for the next 4 years? I mean, we just don't know. It's just like I said, a new offense coming in. You got Julio coming in. Uh, at some point, you would think they would try to work in another running back there to give it to extend his career a little bit. Because right now, nobody else gets any carries.
Especially
And
with 18 games, with 17 games. I think that is going to be something that will be a discussion next year this time, talking about probably more committees because of the wear and tear they're going to take. Like Derrick Henry, that's why he won't get Walter Payton numbers, because he's a bruiser and bruisers get hit.
yeah. So does that mean maybe Darrington Evans makes a surprise appearance here and there this year?
Oh yeah. In
But,
case you're listening, my face is very non-expressive right now.
so since we brought up Darrington Evans, we'll just jump into the next guy since we'll move on. And it's my guy. It's late round drafted guy. I think it was the seventh round, sixth round, somewhere around. I'm not really sure. He plays in Seattle. It's Chris Carson. He's 26 years old. Sorry. Um, did play 12 games last year. He had 681 carries. He did have a career best 4.8 yards per attempt, which is
I
good.
will correct your one stat. He did not have 681 carries. That would be
Oh,
amazing.
that would be an all time high. That would be impressive. So he had
He might
600.
die.
Yeah, he had 681 yards. That sounds a little better. Um, in the last 3 seasons, he's been a top 20 running back. I think he's finished 19, 12, and 16. And that's with his injury issues that he has. So coming into this year with Seattle, they like to run the ball. I mean, they're going to run the ball 681 times probably. So Carson, Carson, maybe if he can stay healthy, 250 carries. There's not much as far as help in that backfield. I don't trust Rashad Penny. They're with Travis Homer and DJ Dallas. Not a lot of competition there, and they're going to run the ball, and he's definitely the goal line back. I wouldn't see where that would even change at all. And he can catch too. He's able to come out of the backfield, catch a few balls. Not fantastic, but I mean he can help you out there. So there's a chance where he could be top 15 again this year.
Yeah, he's that ugly guy you don't want to have.
Yeah.
I told you before, I've never had Chris Carson on my team. I've never drafted him. I don't think I've offered a trade for him. I don't know what it is about Chris Carson. There's those players that you're just not interested
Oh,
in.
absolutely.
And he's 1,000-yard guy when he plays. The key is when he plays, if they're gonna run the ball this year, it's gonna go through him. Penny just got another surgery. If Rashad Penny ever plays, Chris Carson's workload comes down because Penny did show some flashes the other year. Travis Homer's a decent fill-in. DJ Dallas, we don't know. They drafted him last year. He was a sexy pick this time of the year last year in rookie drafts. I can't argue against Chris Carson. You could make the same argument for a younger, like Chris Carson to me falls in the David Montgomery. They're great for their team. You're not going to get anything if you try to trade for them. You'll draft them and you feel kind of yucky drafting them, but when you play them, you're like, hey, this feels good.
Yeah, I mean you're happy. I mean you don't. There's got to be a spot on your team for that consistent RB2 type. I mean it's a very valuable asset to have on your team. Plus, we do realize they do have the possibility of being that RB1. Look at David Montgomery last year. His last 8 games, he was incredible. But he's not an old guy. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Go back to Chris Carson. But he does have a top 12 finish. He did finish number 12 2 years ago. So we know the possibilities there. Like if he does play those 15, 16 games, I think a back end RB1 is definitely in the cards for him.
Hey, I can't argue there. So moving on to the last guy we got today, as I was thinking of 30-year-old running backs or older running backs, this one name kept coming into my mind, and it was Fred Jackson. Fred Jackson, who is actually younger than me in real life, but Fred Jackson did not come into the NFL till he was 26. And that year he only had 58 carries. But once Fred Jackson turned 28, is when he started to roll. He had 237 carries that year, 1,000. Like his yardage wise, that was his best year, 1,000 yards. He was never a giant beast of a player, but he's the epitome of a guy that could be a late bloomer. And in that Buffalo years, he had 237, 222, 170, 115, 206, and 141 carries those years, but he was receiving the heck out of the ball with 45, 61, 54, 50, 42, 65, and not. Oh, sorry, I got those numbers off. Let's try this again. We are stat oblivious today. He had, let's try 46, 31, 39, 34, 47 in his last year in Buffalo, 66 receptions as a 33-year-old running back. He bloomed late, he blossomed late, but he was a consistent, he was never the bell cow. He was part of some decent committees. We were talking about prior. CJ Spiller would have been a great pick. I had him a couple years, and then Fred Jackson just sort of messed that up because he was too much committee backfield going on there. But to me, he's a comp to Mike Davis. Mike Davis, surprisingly, has been on 5 NFL teams. 5 NFL teams since the age of 22. He is going to be 20. He is 28 now, and he is finally the guy. Unless you can name me the guy in Atlanta, barring some magical.
I can name a guy.
No. The guy.
Okay.
There's a lot of A guys there. I mean, you got the giant quadded man. You got my favorite rookie Hawkins there. But as of right now, Mike Davis is slotted to get some carries this year. Nothing like what he got in San Francisco, 35 rushes his first year, 19. He didn't do diddly squat in San Francisco. Seattle gave him 112 one year. Last year in Carolina, he stepped in. He stepped up when Christian McCaffrey went down, and that's how he earned this job. Last year, he did have 642 yards, 6 touchdowns, 59 receptions. So in a pass-heavy offense, that is a great commodity. He's going to be very valuable because they're going to pass a lot, they're going to lose a lot, and they're going to be playing catch-up. So they're not going to have to necessarily take him off the field. And he's solid. He's 221 pounds. He's not, little like Walter Payton at 200 pounds. He's a big dude. He's not big like Henry, but situation dictates Mike Davis.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, he's the prototypical size running back that you want. You got that 5'9", 221. So, I can't argue with anything you said. Even though in Carolina last year, like watching him in the beginning of the year, he was fantastic. And, he started to fade a little bit at the end of the year. Maybe got tired. He's not used to all those carries. Because let's agree, last year was obviously his best season that he's ever had in the sixth
by
season.
a mile.
All right. So he does have the new coach coming over from Tennessee. We all know what he did with Derrick Henry. So I feel like he's probably going to bring that same offensive style over to Atlanta, where they're going to use the running back a lot.
You heard it first here on the Fantasy Couriers. Mike Davis is Derrick Henry. JJ Wang says Mike Davis is the equivalent to JJ for Derrick Henry. So just draft him.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but he might get those if he can handle all those carries. We don't know if he can handle all those carries. It's never happened. So we'll see how it goes. Plus, he's going to, like I said, he's going to get a lot more catches out of the backfield. Atlanta's going to have to throw a lot. That's obvious. Matt Ryan has always thrown a lot. So with that new coach coming over, I think top 15 season is definitely in the cards again. If he can handle all those carries, that's going to be a lot of carries. But there's not another the guy behind him. There's only a couple A guys. So, we'll see how it works out. I don't think that team is going to be very good. So they're going to be playing catch up a lot. So he might be that guy that has 10 points going into the fourth quarter, and the next thing you know, he's got 23 fantasy points and turning into an RB1 every week.
That's 5 receptions in a PPR league for 50 yards. All you need, baby.
That's all. It's all you need. So, like I said, the options are there for him. We'll see how it works. I'm not going to put a lot of faith in him. I probably won't draft him anyways. I'm not high on him. I would probably take Chris Carson over Mike Davis if I had the choice, just because I know Chris Carson can kind of handle a little bigger workload than Mike Davis could.
But really, it comes down to roster construction and draft capital, because when you are drafting Chris Carson, you're drafting him with what? Third round pick? And Mike Davis, you're getting him later in the draft. So if you're saying they're comparable players,
So I'm not really sure what his draft value is right now, but honestly, for 1 year, I don't see Mike Davis's draft value being that low. Because I mean, I think everybody feels pretty much the same way about Mike Davis. They're going to come into Atlanta, he's going to get all the carries. So, I mean, like I said, I'm not sure what his draft value is, but I would think it would, by the time draft season does come around, it might creep up there a little bit.
Currently in PPR leagues, he is the 52. So you're looking about the fourth round, 24th running back. So that sounds like a bargain for me. He's double the value of Chris Carson, which is why I'll probably have more shares of Mike Davis. You'll have more shares of Chris Carson, and we both would love to have Derrick Henry, but I doubt we're drafting in the top
I'm not drafting Derrick Henry, probably.
five.
I'm just afraid Derrick Henry is going to give me the Sean Alexander treatment, and I'm going to draft him, and he's going to something's going to happen that first game, and it's just going to ruin the rest of my redraft year, and I just don't want that right now.
Sounds like all the Saquon owners the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if it comes to that, I'm taking Cam Akers over Derrick Henry when it comes to that time in the draft. That's my opinion.
So that's our old guy running backs. Our old guys, our 26-year-old, our 26-year-old, and our 28-year-old. Now we're going to we're going to close out the day with one of two segments, the battles segment. Since we talked about running backs in our old guy segment, we thought we would hit a wide receiver battle segment. There's not really much of a battle, I guess we would say,
I
but
don't
we
know.
wanted to talk about them
I
because
think there's
they're
quite a battle for that number one guy. I don't think it's a slam dunk.
okay. So yeah, we're looking at the Cincinnati Bengals, and if you look at their depth chart, in wide receivers, you're looking at T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, Alden Tate, Mike Thomas, Trent Taylor, Stanley Morgan. Isn't that like a law firm or
I thought it was
what?
an insurance company.
Insurance company. There you go. Trenton Irwin. Sounds like an insurance company. Scotty Washington, Riley Lees, not to be omitted. Don't forget they have tight ends. Drew Sample, CJ Uzama, Mason Shrek, and Thaddeus Moss. So what are you
Yeah,
thinking? There's a battle here for
yeah.
what?
I think there's a battle for that number one guy. I think you said they brought in Jamar Chase to be that number one guy, but I think T Higgins performed admirably, fantastic last year with Joe Burrow plus those other guys that had to come in at the end of the year. I mean, he's at 67 catches, 900 yards. The Joe Burrow comes back for the full season. I'm not really sure if that's going to happen. I think wide receiver one is an option, but with Jamar Chase, he's going to take a lot of targets, but they are going to throw the ball a lot. I mean, that's pretty much that style offense. So, is it possible to get 2,000-yard receivers plus Tyler Boyd still coming in with 800 yards? Or could Tyler Boyd be 1,000-yard receiver? They said there's going to be a lot of targets to go around. I'm not too worried about the tight ends. I don't think they're not going to get a lot. But I think T. Higgins and Jamar Chase might be one of the best combos in the league by the end of the season.
Oh, I think this is a three-horse race, and they're all running neck and neck. I love me some Jamar Chase. I love T. Higgins. I got him in your dynasty league that we do together, and I think that the ball is gonna sling. I have never been a Tyler Boyd guy, but I throw back to our Carolina Panthers discussion last week. If Teddy Bridgewater can support 3,000-yard receivers named Anderson, Samuels, and more, I'm pretty sure that Boyd, Chase, and Higgins can go over 1,000 yards on a better offense with a better quarterback and no running back to steal those catches. Mixon will get a couple. P. Ryan will get some. The other guys are rookies. Who knows? But you're not losing those running backs. So it wasn't really McCaffrey. It was Mike Davis still. But these three guys, they're gonna get some yards. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think they'll all get 1,000 yards. I could see Boyd being just under.
Yeah, so
Chase.
that's
I
what
could
I
see them
think.
all being about 900, maybe 900. But they could all feasibly, in a perfect world, get 1,000 yards each.
So who do you think would be that number one guy? You got T. Higgins, that typical alpha wide receiver, 6'4", 210, great on the outside. Then you got Jamar Chase, a little smaller, 6 foot, 208, but speedster. Can't argue with what he's done in college. So I think T. Higgins this year might have a little better season, But you never know with Burrow and Chase and that combination that they've had for several years. And Burrow was the one that said, "Hey, coach, we need to draft Jamar Chase in here. That's who I want." And what do you want to do as a head coach? You want to make your quarterback happy. So who do you got as the number one guy there?
If you said, here's $100, you got to bet on one of these guys to be the number one receiver, I am putting my money on Tyler Boyd. I do not think Tyler Boyd is going to be the number one, but I cannot pick between Chase and Higgins. So I would put money on Tyler Boyd because I would win a whole lot more money if he ended up being the number one receiver. That being said, I have to go with what you were saying there. You took the words out of my mouth. It would be Jamar Chase. They could have had a top tier line for this garbage line that they have in getting Penei Sewell right there at number 5. But Burrow said, "Give me Chase. This is my dude." Chase was, if I'm not incorrect, better than Jefferson that one year that they were all together. And so if Chase is better than Jefferson, hypothetically speaking, Chase should have the greatest rookie season in the history of the NFL.
I wish it was that. I wish it was that easy. I mean, I really do. That would make fantasy a lot easier. But like I said, we know that's not how it works. Like they said, both of them are going to go crazy. That offense is going to throw the ball 650 times probably. Joe Mixon's going to get hurt at some point. So they're not going to run the ball a lot, and they're probably not going to be in the lead a lot. So they're going to be throwing. They're be coming from behind, just throwing and throwing and throwing.
And just a quick little note, there are some tight ends here. We're looking at Drew Sample, draft capital, second round pick. You got CJ coming back off some injury, Usama off some injuries, and then the sexy pick here is Thaddeus Moss. Any
I don't
thoughts?
know if it's sexy, but I mean,
Trendy?
okay. But I mean, I'm looking at Sample as that second year guy, and like he's more of the blocking type. I mean, he did have 40 catches, 349 yards. He's a big dude.
Yeah,
So it's what 6'4", 259. So maybe when you get down in that red zone, it might be a good target. He might be able to jump up to 5 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns. You never know. That'll probably get him as a top 12 running tight end. If
easily. Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's not much special there. But he would be the only guy that I'd be interested in.
if you want to delve deep, you going on the Jamar Chase discussion, you could hit Thaddeus Moss. He had 40. He only played with Burrow 1 year, but that was the greatest history in college football season history with 47 receptions, 570 yards. And I mean, he is Randy Moss's son, so he's got to be good at football,
He's
right?
got to be good. Yeah, he's got to be good. Straight
He
cash, homie.
he got dumped by the Washington football team, so he's got to be great. But he's worth a dart throw if you have a deeper dynasty tight end premium. If you really want to go deep, I got a name here that I just love this name.
I've
You've
never even
never
heard of this guy.
heard of this dude. This name is Pro Wells. Pro Wells is from TCU. He is they are trying to catch that diamond in the rough by signing him undrafted. The only way you will hear his name is if Moss doesn't make the team. He's probably fighting Moss for that last spot. He is their dart throw at trying to get the next Antonio Gates. He is a high school basketball player, a big dude. He played some JUCO. He's 6'4", 257. In TCU, he made second team All American in 2019. Last year doesn't really count because last year was a big mess in college football. But they signed him. He's no risk to them. He's a big dude, and they're trying to catch that lightning in the bottle. So just remember here on the Fantasy Couriers, you heard the name Pro Wells, maybe for the only time in history, or maybe in 2 years, his name will come up as the next Antonio Gates.
Yes, I
So,
mean you heard it here first. Pro Well is that next great tight end. Just never know.
so
Stranger
today's
things,
key stats.
stranger things has happened. So let's go from Pro Wells, the guy we may never hear about again, to a guy that's just all over the place right now. I mean, you can't go a day without hearing his name. His name is Aaron Rodgers. So we want to throw his name in there just to kind of gauge where you think Aaron Rodgers is right now, what you think his not his value, but where you think he'll actually do this year.
Aaron Rodgers is about as tough as picking the number one receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals to loop back around. Aaron Rodgers is a pig-headed, stubborn guy. He learned from the best. Brett Favre was not happy Aaron Rodgers was drafted. Aaron Rodgers, as a liar, says he didn't care that Jordan Love was drafted. He did not like that. He was not happy because he's a prima donna quarterback. Like, if you're the best, you got to have that chip on your shoulder. That's what you always hear about being you don't get that elite and that much power without having that confidence. I think they are dug in right now. I know Aaron Rodgers is in football shape. He has been working out. He is ready to start the season. I personally believe if I had to right now in July lay down a bet, what's he going to do this year? It's one of two things. He is playing for the Green Bay Packers or he is staying home. Green Bay, I don't think will let him go.
Yeah, see, I just think there's just one option. I think that one option is he plays for the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers is pretty confident in himself. He has a legacy that he has to keep, and I think taking that year off, showing that hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be Aaron Rodgers. Take a year off. I think that hurts his legacy. I don't think he wants that. So I don't think the Packers are going to let him go. They're not going to trade him. He's going to. Honestly, I just don't think he wants to be at training camp. And so he's making this big deal about it. Like he's Aaron Rodgers. Let's be honest. He doesn't need to be at training camp. He can show up the Saturday before the game, first game of the season, be like, "All right, coach, I'm here. I'm going to jump in, and I'm going to put in another MVP caliber performance, like I always do." And I think that's the only place Aaron Rodgers plays. He'll play all the games. He'll make Devontae Adams the superstar wide receiver that he is.
Sure hope so.
It's just what he does. Now, the thing is, we had 48 touchdowns last year. That's a lot. So he does come back, plays for Green Bay, like I think we all know he actually will. But I also thought that about Le'Veon Bell, and I was wrong about that too. So, but I'm pretty right about this. So, do you think he gets over 35 touchdowns? I think that's a lot.
Oh, 35 is the line. Totally. I agree with you 100%. He is playing there. He will, if he plays this year for the Packers, he's going to pick up right where he let off. He could be better. I don't think he could be better. Take that back because what a lot of what I hear is that after last year's mess of an offseason, just like with strikes in the past, the defenses come back weaker. There's better offensive stats. So this year there will be a defensive surge and you won't see some of these gaudy crazy. So if say Jefferson came in this year, that's the real reason Chase won't catch him. Defenses are going to step up. Defenses are going to be better this year. He won't reach that peak. The quarterback, there's going to be positive regression because of that. Players will still be great. 35 is a great number. 35 would be a great season. He's got Devontae Adams, just throw them all to Devontae Adams. That would be magnificent. I would love to see that, and that would help me win that title I'm looking for in this one league. He will play. The only thing that concerns me is this is a dude who cut off his family. And you didn't hear like his family weren't trying to like extort him for money. They weren't saying, "Hey, can you come?" He cut off his family. He is stubborn, but I also think the camaraderie of football players, they know it's a business, but I think he wants to win again. And he's looking there going, "Hey, my boy Devontae, he's in his prime. This is where I'm going to win. Sutton and Judy are good, but Devontae is going to have me win. And if I want to win, this is what I got to do."
Yeah, like see, he doesn't really stand a better chance. I mean, they made it to the NFC Championship last year. I mean, what else? What else do you want? I mean, you're not well, of course, other than winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So there's 48 touchdowns. Like 2 years prior to that, I mean, playing in all 16 games, it was what 26 touchdowns and 25 touchdowns. So I'm seeing probably right around that 30 touchdown mark again this year. And of course, he never throws interceptions. It's not what he does. So 30 touchdowns, 4 or 5 interceptions. I mean, it's still a great season. Like I said, he's getting older. He'll be 38. Um, Packers are definitely still a playoff team. Went 13-3 the last 2 seasons. Really don't see that changing much. But like Green Bay all the way. It's not really. I don't think it's much of a competition there with any other options.
Nope. So we started with old guys. We ended with old guys. Hey, old guy, take us out of here.
All right. Great show. I really enjoyed this one. I think this one might, other than the slow start that we had, it took us a minute to get going. But I think this is a good show. Really enjoy talking about the old guys.
Yeah, and
But
real quickly before we close out, don't forget to subscribe to us on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, any of your favorite podcasts where we show up. Click on us on YouTube if you want to see our handsome faces, and share us with all your friends. My daughter is our biggest promoter. She shared us with the Megalodon monster truck team the other day, and they were very excited to hear about us, or they pretended to be.
yeah, and also we're still looking for that first
Email.
question there, right? That first email question about the fantasycouriers.com.
Fantasycouriers at gmail.com.
Yeah, we're still looking for that first question. Hopefully you could be the first. All right, I'll get us out of here. Trust yourself and trust the process.